Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of The Debate Mates. I'm your co-host, Matthew, and I'm here with my other co-host, Jack. As you've noticed, so far, Nathan is not here with us again today. Hopefully he'll be back shortly. Something came up again. But he's still part of the Debate Mates, and we'll be back again, like I mentioned. So another thing that you hopefully will notice is we got a mic and a new camera, so hopefully we can make the quality of these videos better. And the number of views on our last two videos has been down a little bit. We had 3 straight of 100, and then we haven't really even reached 65 since then. So, just remember, tell everyone to watch. Keep watching, keep liking, keep commenting, whatever you gotta do. Just let's try to get those views back up near the hundreds until we can grow and grow and grow, and then get it up to hopefully near the thousands eventually. But for now, we gotta talk content to keep you guys involved so we can get up to that 100 views goal. So let's start with some of the trades that happened. So I'm gonna ask you, who is the winner of the NBA trade deadline?
First of all, sorry for doing trades again. This is, for real this time, probably the last trade video we'll do.
Yeah.
Because it is past the trade deadline now. We have the 6 big trades, I think, of the ones that did occur. There were some other ones that we aren't going to cover in this video, and some of these we've already covered that we're going to cover again briefly. I think the biggest ones on here, Harrison Barnes traded to the Sacramento Kings for Justin Jackson and Zach Randolph. Who do you think won this trade, Matthew?
I'd have to go with the Kings.
I agree.
I'd say it's a pretty easy decision for me. Zach Randolph, first name 20, last name 10, is now first name bench, last name warmer. He still gets playing time, but he doesn't have that same impact.
He's aging. He's a great post player still, but he, of course, is getting older.
He doesn't have that same impact on defense or on offense. He used to be a great two-way player, and now just has lost that ability to perform at a high level. And then you have Justin Jackson, who I think will thrive in a role in Dallas because they've got a lot of young guys there. He fits the timeline.
Same with the Kings, but
Porzingis. So I think that'll help out. And then Harrison Barnes is not he's not old by any means.
He's not. He's 25.
He's got the championship
pedigree.
Pretty
young guy, yeah.
From winning with Golden State. And he is a veteran for this team. I mean, around guys like De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, for a team as young as the Kings, he's really a veteran on that team.
And he's a solid three-point shooter, around
38%.
Yeah, and like you said,
he's
a solid
player. He's not amazing. He's not like an all-star, but he was definitely, I would say, probably the best or one of the best players on the Mavs.
One of the best. Not better than Luka.
Or, you could argue Luka's better, but
you could argue Luka's better, Jack. What are you talking about?
Okay, Luka's better. But prior to Luka getting there, he was definitely the best player in Dallas for the past couple of years. And, I think he'll fit in well with a team like the Kings because he's young enough to kind of fit into their timeline and at the same time be old enough to be a good mentor to the young guys on that team.
I mentioned Justin Jackson will probably do. I think he'll do pretty well with Dallas. But from the Dallas side of things, why would you trade Harrison Barnes?
I don't know. It's not like he's old.
I know.
Why? I mean, he was fitting in pretty well. He's a solid player. I mean, what's the point? Why would you take a guy like Zach Randolph or Justin Jackson over Harrison Barnes?
Yeah, I think both of those don't give you the same amount of
absolutely not.
Talent as Harrison Barnes.
Because would Zach Randolph even be a starter on the Mavs? Probably not. Especially not once they get Porzingis back. Yeah. Because they both play, power forward or center. And
imagine how well Harrison Barnes would have. I think he would have really flourished with Porzingis and Luka. He could slide in there perfectly as that third option because that's kind of what he was at Golden State. The third option, you had Curry, you had Clay, and then you kind of had Barnes and Draymond and Bogut all there in the starting five. And he's one of the better offensive players out of the 3 I just mentioned. So he definitely, I think, would have worked great because Porzingis obviously isn't going to... He can clog the lane because he's a big guy who can finish in the post and can also spread it out. So either way, whichever playing style he wanted to do in Dallas, Barnes would get open looks from them. Luka driving in, hitting it to Porzingis. You got to close that on him, and then Barnes in the corner.
Yeah, it would make things a lot easier for the Dallas offense.
I mean, Justin Jackson's a solid three-point shooter, and he is still really young.
Still really young. He's a second-year player.
Yeah, but even though he is a second-year player, he played all 4 years at UNC. So
so he's got a lot of experience for a young guy.
And he's also not quite as young as some of the other rookies in the league or second-year players because he did have that 4-year stint at Carolina. So I would agree the winner of this trade is definitely
Dallas.
the Kings.
Yeah, the Kings. Sorry.
Yeah. And on the Dallas side, is a little questionable in my opinion.
It's more than questionable.
We'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah.
All right. So on to the next trade. I think this is a no-brainer who the winner was. We have the Philadelphia 76ers making a deal with the Orlando Magic, sending Markelle Fultz over to Orlando for Jonathan Simmons, a 2020 first-round pick, and a 2019 second-round pick. So I already have my winner in mind. Who do you think the winner is?
76ers.
I agree.
So, because Markelle Fultz, and no disrespect to him, he was a great player in college, but ever since being in the NBA, it's just been weird.
I know.
It's so weird. He, he had his shoulder injury. His shot has been completely messed up since then. He hasn't had a ton of playing time over the past couple years, and he was the first pick.
I know.
He could have been, Rookie of the Year.
He went really downhill really fast. And it's,
he was in, therapy. He lost, all of his confidence in his playing style.
Yeah.
It was kind of sad, honestly, to see such a great player suffer, his game completely suffer like that.
Hopefully
to get him out of the 76ers, of course, clears up a roster spot for them and gets a lot of drama out of Philly, send it down to Orlando, where they're not doing great anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan Simmons, of course, he's not amazing, but he's a solid offensive player, great defender. He was great for the Magic. He was great for the Spurs. And I think he will fit in solid as a 3-and-D type of player in Philadelphia. And, of course, the two picks. You never know what Philly's going to get with a pick. They've been very dangerous with their because, of course, they've drafted a lot of great players.
Yeah, and since they're coming from Orlando, they're going to be high draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that confuses me about this is Markelle Fultz wasn't even playing for the 76ers and most likely will sit out for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they essentially traded Jonathan Simmons and the 2019 second-round pick, because they're the only ones that are going to be used this year, for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just Markelle Fultz for the 2020 pick.
It's like they got Markelle Fultz, but they're not even getting him yet.
I know. It's an odd trade. They traded a guy that's not even going to play for them and gave the 76ers a solid rotation guy to help strengthen their bench.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so these two first trades were definitely
kind of obvious in terms of who won.
Yeah. Who do you think Markelle Fultz will ever, maybe not turn into the All-Star we might have thought he was going to be when he entered the the NBA, but do you think we could maybe at least see him get up to 10, 15, 18 points per game?
I think at some point he'll probably be solid, but I don't think he's going to be anything near the level that we thought coming out of college. I don't think he'll be a bust his whole career. I think eventually, within the next couple of years, we'll see him start to get better, but I don't see him being at the level that everyone thought he would be.
Right, I agree with you there. So on to our third trade. This was a big trade because Marc Gasol was huge.
Yep.
But we had Marc Gasol traded to the Toronto Raptors for Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, and CJ Miles, plus a 2024 second-round pick, so someone the same age as Jack and I.
Yeah, so that's basically nothing. For a while.
Well, what if that turns into Bronny James? Maybe he goes.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Whoa, he would be in the same draft class as us.
Maybe he falls down to the second round.
No chance.
Yeah.
Just because even if he wasn't playing great, he'd be a top. He'd be a first round pick just because he's LeBron James.
Are the Lakers gonna tank 2023, 2024 so they can get the first round pick and pick Bronny?
Imagine if LeBron's still playing by then and they have LeBron and his son on the same team.
Yeah. All right, so we can do hypotheticals all day long, but let's talk about the real trade right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are your views on this?
I think that Toronto got the better end of this deal. Because Marc Gasol, of course, he's aging, but he's still, solid shooter. Of course, Jonas Valanciunas wasn't a shooter. Marc Gasol, he's a great post player, great defender, of course, former Defensive Player of the Year. And he's solid. He can finish his career in Toronto, a good place for him to maybe win a championship or, get some more accolades under his belt. Because, of course, he's been with Memphis his whole career where he hasn't, or most of his career where he hasn't done a ton there. Of course, he hasn't won any championships there.
Success.
Yeah. So hopefully he can get some of that in the later stages of his career here in Toronto. And then now let's look at it from the Grizzlies side of things. You get Jonas Valanciunas, who's a solid center, of course, not on the level of Marc Gasol, but still solid. DeLon Wright, young guy, but do we really care? No. And then C.J. Miles, of course, solid 3-point shooter. On a team that really needs some shooters, because you don't think of Memphis.
Yeah, as a
They're-
top 3.
Yeah, as a top 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
It's called Grind City for a reason.
The thing I love the most about this trade is that the Toronto Raptors, they kept this season in mind without absolutely destroying their future if Kawhi leaves. Because if Kawhi walks, they've still got Lowry, they've still got Siakam, they've still
now
got
Marc Gasol.
Gasol, they still have OG Anunoby,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they might have actually traded him.
Yeah, I like that they haven't put it all on the table for this season.
They still have a lot of, and Fred VanVleet, they
could still be like a playoff team next year if Kawhi
walks. So I really love how let's be honest. This trade isn't going to beat the Warriors.
No,
no. And let's be honest, the 76ers trade's not going to beat the Warriors. So it's nice to see how the East is really going competitive for this year and really is going do or die for this season. But I don't really think it's going to help come NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's not.
And in my opinion, I think we'll cover this a little bit later, but I still think the Celtics have the upper hand on this team, 76 or this team, Bucks, and even the Raptors. So I'd love to see that these teams are trying to be competitive and really go for it this year. And I do agree that the Raptors won the trade for all the reasons I just mentioned. But let's talk about this. I said the Celtics are my favorite for the East, and we've already covered the Tobias Harris trade. And something we're going to talk about a little bit later is how Nikola Mirotic got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that in mind, do you consider the Raptors the favorite for the East, or the 76ers, Bucks, Celtics, where you
I think
leaning towards?
For the East, I think I would put either the Raptors or the Bucks still. And I don't know exactly why that is. I feel like, for some reason I get this feeling about the Bucks that, of course, they're having this great regular season, but they'll be like a second-round exit. Because when you look at like the other great teams in the East, they just don't have the star power that all the other teams in the East have. I mean, they've got Giannis, of course, but outside of that, they don't really have any star players. I mean, Chris Middleton was an all-star, but you could argue that maybe he didn't deserve that. And then you look at teams like Toronto, who have Marc Gasol, who is, a great player. They've got, of course, Kyle Lowry, an all-star, and Kawhi Leonard, one of the best players in the league. I just don't think the Bucks have the star power. Because, let's be real, Giannis has kind of carried them this season. They've had a lot of great players on that team. Of course, Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton. But when you think about, if you get rid of Chris Middleton, I mean, they could still be a good team. You get rid of Giannis, that team has nothing.
Right. So
you think at a certain point in the playoffs, Giannis carrying a team, a young guy in the playoffs, I don't know. I think I would keep the Raptors as my favorite.
Right. The one thing about the Raptors is they're probably going to have to realistically. The Pacers are playing really well right now, but I think at some point they will drop out of the top 4 seeds in the East. So they're probably either going to have to play the Celtics or the 76ers in the first round, and the second round. And I see both of those teams threatening taking the Raptors to 7, and whichever team of those two the Raptors don't play, most likely the Bucks will. So I see, those are both going to be very fun series. And like I said, this East has been really competitive this year, at least the top half of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think the Celtics will come out on top in the East. They're just so deep. And we'll talk about the Celtics a little bit later and their recent struggles. But for now, we both have our stands on who will come out on top of the East. And then we touched on this trade a couple episodes ago, or last episode. I think. Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, Mike Scott. And Mike Scott got traded to the Philadelphia 76ers
for Landry Shamet, 2020 protected first-round pick, and unprotected 2021 first-round pick. Right. Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, and a 2021 and 2023 second-round pick, which sounds like a lot that the Clippers are getting, but I still stand by my original decision, which is that the 76ers won this trade by a landslide. They got an amazing player in Tobias Harris, which can make their starting five even more deadly. And then a couple of other solid players thrown in. Landry Shamet, of course, he's good. He's been a solid rookie this year. And a few picks, but Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, these are all role players. So I still think that the 76ers definitely won this trade.
I agree with you that they won, but I'm going to argue the other side just for laughs. So I think Tobias Harris to the 76ers could potentially mess up the locker room. Tobias Harris has never been the type of guy to demand the first, to demand to be the first player, first role on the team. But Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler have.
Yeah.
And now, instead of Jimmy Butler being the clear-cut third seed, or third option, I should say, he could arguably be seen as the fourth option. He was complaining earlier about how he didn't get enough touches, enough shots, and that was just when they had 2 All-Stars on the team. And now you could argue that they have 3 because I think a lot of people believe Tobias Harris got snubbed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if Jimmy Butler. We've seen that Joel Embiid doesn't really care about taking the last-second shots, and it's been Jimmy Butler's.
He's been their finisher.
He's been their finisher all year long. But I could see Jimmy Butler getting upset, possibly causing a drama in the locker room. We
all know Jimmy Butler's prone to that this year. So
they gave up a lot of depth, and they didn't really get a whole lot of that back. Boban and Mike Scott, and then T.J. McConnell, Jonathan Simmons. That's not a great bench right there.
Yeah, but at the same time, you see teams like Golden State who they don't have the greatest bench,
but they're
you
not
see
as
them
talented.
As Golden State.
All right, yeah, it's a starting 5.
Well, yeah, but it's still, I'd say, the best starting 5 in the East now.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the only reason that I'd put teams like the Raptors and the Celtics perhaps over the 76ers is because of their bench, their depth. Right. But of course, Golden State has shown that you don't need a great bench if you have an amazing starting 5. So I think even if they lost a lot of depth, they're still a better team than they were before the trade deadline.
So, and then on the Clippers side of things, they only gave up 3 players. One of them was arguably an all-star, and they got a lot back. Like you said, it seems like a lot, but it's not really that much. They got 3 players: Landry Shamet, Wilson Chandler, and Mike Muscala. And now they don't have to worry about trying to re-sign Tobias Harris in free agency. Instead, they can go after Kawhi Leonard and Clay and Kyrie, Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned before I don't like the Knicks trade for Porzingis because we're going to sign KD is not a plan. But I think the Clippers have much higher chances of getting a free agent than the Knicks do.
Yeah.
Because even though they lost Tobias Harris, they still have Montrezl Harrell, they still have Danilo Gallinari. And
they have more pieces than New York.
This team was doing it by committee, even when Tobias Harris was playing like an all-star. So I definitely believe we'll have a next man up mentality. And Danilo Gallinari might become the Tobias Harris for this team.
Yeah.
Or Montrezl Harrell, or Lou Williams even. I still think the Clippers will be right in there as far as getting the 8th seed this season.
Yeah, they're still in the conversation.
Yeah, so it didn't ruin their postseason chances, and they're still gonna get they still have a chance to get a fantastic free agent. And yes, they gave up the biggest name out of this group, but they did get back a lot, and they didn't really destroy or tarnish their chances of being a great team.
Yeah, I still think, the trade isn't nearly as bad on the Clippers side as I thought it was initially. I still definitely think the 76ers won this trade, but the Clippers did get some pieces back, and I think they're definitely not out of the playoff picture just yet.
So now we have learned who the best debatement is after I swayed Jackson's opinion. That's the minor bit, but that's all it takes. And then the final trade that we're going to hit on is Otto Porter got traded to the Wizards for Bobby Portis and Jabari Parker. Bobby Portis has been playing great for the Wizards so far. Porter will probably play really well for the Bulls.
Yeah.
I like this trade on the side of the Bulls. At first, I didn't really like it that much because I didn't really like it that much on the Wizards side because I didn't realize how good of numbers Bobby Portis was putting up. He's averaging like 15 and 6.
Yeah, he's a solid player.
I was unaware of how fantastic he was playing. And he and Parker are both young.
Yeah, he and Jabari Parker are both very young. Otto Porter Jr., of course, is pretty young as well. But I kind of think this is definitely the most even, fair trade of the ones we've covered. Because you get a guy like Otto Porter Jr. in the Bulls. They need shooters. Of course, they get him out of Washington because Washington needs to tank, as we've said many times before. They need to get their stars out of there. For Bobby Portis, who is a solid player, Jabari Parker also solid. They're both young, have a lot of room for growth and development. And I think this is actually a pretty fair trade on both team sides. I think both teams will benefit from this trade.
I think this potentially could be the Bucks, or not the Bucks, the Wizards could potentially kill the Bulls as far as this trade goes because Jabari Parker has so much potential to be an all-star. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, the Bulls could potentially kill the Wizards as far as this trade goes if we see Otto Porter tap into his potential and maybe become an all-star because he has shown some flashes of that.
But of course, on a team with Wall and Beal, he's always been the third option,
Right.
so he's never had the opportunity
And
to flourish.
with the Bulls, he probably won't even be the first option, but I really like that.
Zach LaVine, would probably be the first option.
Zach LaVine, Otto Porter, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter Jr. That's not
Markkanen as a third option is hard to think of as well. But yeah, LaVine is definitely their first option, and I would put Otto Porter as an option over Markkanen.
I mean, this is not as good as men. This is not a great starting five as far as most teams in the East go, but this is a fun starting five to think about as far as how far they could go.
Yeah, it's a very young talent type of starting five. Right. Even though none of them are really amazing yet.
Right.
With I think actually Zach LaVine, you could argue, is an amazing player at this point.
Right.
But Markkanen and Otto Porter Jr. have a lot of room to grow, and I think this team could be. This could be a playoff team in the coming years. Maybe not a highly seeded playoff team, but this could be a 7 or 8 seed in the next few years.
All right, so on to the next topic. We're going to talk about some recent happenings in the NBA. Last night, the Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder played on ABC, and the Rockets looked like they were going to kill the Thunder. They were up 26, and then all of a sudden, Paul George happened, and the Rockets blew that 26-point lead, and the Thunder came back and won. And on the other side of the country, we had the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Clippers playing at TD Garden. Both of these games were at home for the Rockets and the Celtics. The Celtics looked like they were going to kill the Clippers. They were up 28. Kyrie got injured at half, did not play for the rest of the game, and they went from leading to 28 to getting booed off of the floor after giving up their lead and losing by 11 points. So I'm going to ask you, what is the more disappointing loss, the Rockets or the Celtics?
The Celtics.
I agree.
The Celtics lost to the Clippers, who the Celtics are up there with the top seeds in the East. They're an incredibly talented roster. Of course, Kyrie went down to half, but that shouldn't matter. You should still beat the Clippers if you've got guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Marcus Smart on your team, Gordon Hayward, and then you lose one guy, and now all of a sudden you're going to lose to the Clippers. I mean, that still should have been an easy win for them. And of course, they blew a slightly bigger lead than the Rockets did. The Rockets, let's be real, on that roster, of course, they got Chris Paul back, but he's still getting back into the rhythm of things. Eric Gordon is out. James Harden is putting in great numbers, but he's doing it all for them right now. And so James Harden blowing a lead to MVP, one of the MVP frontrunners, Paul George and Russell Westbrook and Steven Adams, I don't think is nearly as bad as the Celtics blowing a 28-point lead to an inexperienced Clippers team.
And considering this isn't the first time in the last even couple of days the Celtics blown a big lead.
Mm-hmm.
On Thursday night, they had a complete crash and lost to the Lakers, who are more talented than the Clippers, I think most people would say.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Kyrie, so I'm concerned about them a little bit right now. Marcus Morris said it's not fun right now to play. So there's a lot of drama going on in that locker room right now. So I am a little bit nervous about the Celtics and what's going to happen going forward. If this could eventually lead to the end of Kyrie Irving's tenure in Boston, we will see. But I'm going to agree with you that the Celtics blowing that 28-point lead against the Clippers is completely unacceptable.
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
For Celtics fans.
It's embarrassing for a team that was the 3 seed just a couple days ago. This team should be well ahead of the Pacers. I mean, the Pacers have played great since Victor Oladipo went down, but Kyrie Irving is better than Darren Collison.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Smart is better than whoever the Pacers started shooting guard on.
Tyreek
Evans, Tyreek Evans. Well, you could argue that.
Well, I think Tyreek Evans is better than Marcus Smart.
Yeah, Jason Tatum is better than Boban Bogdanovic, even though Bogdanovic has been playing really well recently.
Thaddeus Young, I don't think is as good.
Marcus
Morris, actually, I don't know if he's better
been a
than Thaddeus
very
Young.
consistent offensive.
I think Thaddeus Young might be better than
You
Marcus
could argue
Morris.
that. And then Al Horford and
He's
Miles
better
Turner.
than Miles Turner.
Yeah,
I
Al
think. And then their bench.
The
They've
Celtics
got such a deep
blow them
bench.
away. They have Terry Rozier.
You got Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown
They became
coming up the
household
bench.
names in the playoffs last year. And then you got Gordon Hayward, who has not played great this season, but still has the potential to become an all-star again. Then you got Daniel Tice, who is not very well known around fans, but if you watch,
You got a deep bench.
Yeah,
they got a deep bench.
He's a consistent shooter, a good defender. It's just really puzzling for me to why they cannot get it together. I mean, maybe Brad Stevens is not quite the coach we all thought he was.
I mean, like, every team has bad nights, but when it happens 2 times in quick succession, blowing a big lead to a team that you should beat.
And we've seen this happen with the Celtics all year long, where they'll go on a 10-game winning streak, and then the next game they'll lose to the Phoenix Suns. Like, they're just hot and then they're cold. If they can't, they have a great defense, but if they're not hitting shots, that defense can only do so much because teams are talented enough to score off around them, even if the shots are contested.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we mentioned the Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who arguably have the 2 front runners for MVP, and James Harden and Paul George. So we're both going to argue for one of those players as MVP, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo is obviously in contention as well, but he's needed more picks for MVP.
So go ahead with your pick for MVP.
Okay, so for my pick for MVP, I have Paul George, PG-13, and I think it's been a long time coming for him.
Yeah,
he
of course.
Had that scary
injury on Team USA.
He came back, and this has been by far his greatest season ever in the NBA. Russell Westbrook has deferred to him, and Paul George has played amazingly ever since. He's got 28 points per game, 45% from the field, a 41% three-point shooter, 8 boards, 4 assists. The 8 boards is really impressive, along with the assists.
Especially when you got a guy like Steven Adams, who, of course,
and
Westbrook, who steals rebounds.
Yeah.
So,
and then something that you can't really have a stat for. Well, he averages about 2-3 steals per game, and most people will consider him as the front runner for a Defensive Player of the Year.
He's up there for sure. He's in the conversation.
I would argue he's surpassed Kawhi Leonard as the best two-way player in the game. And the Thunder are the 3rd best team in a loaded Western Conference, and they're just playing amazing basketball. And Westbrook, he's got the triple-double, but if you look beyond that, you look at his shooting percentages and his turnovers, you can see that he really kind of brings him down a notch. And then you have Steven Adams, who is productive, but you have to get him in the right spots before he can really score in bunches.
Yeah.
So Paul George, he just gets hot from 3. He can defend anyone. He can score on anyone. He's the only player ever, when James Harden has scored 40 points, to outscore him in a game. Last night, Paul George had 45.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to argue for Harden or Giannis. I would say Paul George is probably behind both of them, and many, many others. But I would argue that he is the front runner for MVP, and I think he deserves it.
Okay, so my pick, Paul George would definitely be my second pick for MVP. He's my second. But for me, the MVP, and regardless of whether or not you think he deserves it, I think he's definitely going to get it either way, is James Harden. Because, of course, he's got a crazy high usage rating, and he's had arguably the two of the best players on his team, Chris Paul and Eric Gordon now. But even still, he's Capella. Yeah, he's carried the Rockets to be in the playoff picture. He's putting up 37 points a game, which is unheard of.
Right.
44% from the field, which isn't bad at all. That's really solid for a guy with such a high usage rating. 7 rebounds a game and 8 assists, so which is solid. 7 rebounds as a shooting guard is impressive. 8 assists as a shooting guard is very impressive as well. And he's shooting 38% from 3. So he's putting up 37 points a game on efficient shooting with 7 rebounds and 8 assists. And for me, I mean, you can make the usage rating argument all you want. Like, he takes all the team shots, but at the same time, he's averaging a ton of assists. He's averaging double the assists that Paul George is. And for me, just the incredible scoring, and he scored his 30-plus point per game streak. He's up to 29 games now. 29 games in a row, he scored at least 30 points. And, you can argue he gets all those at the free throw line, but, drawing fouls is tough, and it does take a lot of energy out of you. So I think, people hate on Harden, and, you can make a lot of arguments against him, but at the end of the day, you got to respect what he's doing this season, because he's taken the Rockets to a level that I think that no one expected them to be at.
I think Harden... Okay, I'm going to try and figure out the way I can say this right. I think Harden is a little overvalued. The Rockets would not be where they are without Harden. Yeah,
right.
There's no argument to that. If they just had Chris Paul, Capella, and Gordon, they would not be in the playoff picture right now, in my opinions. And I think probably in most people's opinions. So, Harden probably is the most valuable player to that team. Or definitely is. And maybe even the most valuable player in the world. But let's think of it this way. If the Thunder, or on the flip side, if the Thunder didn't have Paul George, their starting small forward would be Hamidou Diallo, probably. How good is that team? That team's basically what they had before, where they just had Andre Roberson and Westbrook and Adams.
Well, I mean, that team did make it to the playoffs. They were a first-round exit, but you had Westbrook step up. He won the MVP. I mean, that team I don't think would be as bad as you're envisioning it to be. I mean, it would be bad, but it could be a playoff team.
Right. I just think a lot of times you don't see a bad seed team win MVP or a player from a bad team win MVP. And it's not that the rosters are bad, but if you're looking at MVP over the last couple of years,
they've always been on a good team.
Your Steph Curry's, your Kevin Durant's, your James Harden's.
With the exception of Westbrook. I mean, well, yeah, they all made the playoffs.
And they're all very high seeds. And Harden, he does have great stats, but with Westbrook, it was like the first year in so many years that someone had averaged a triple-double. It was just like the craziest thing ever. And his stats just blew away everyone else, and it was obvious no matter what his playoff season was. But with Harden, he does put up the great stats, but when you're considering like a playoff picture, I think it's easier to give it to someone like Paul George because their stats really aren't too far apart. Yes, James Harden's averaging about 10 more points per game than him, but rebounds, Paul George is out rebounding him. Assists, Harden has the edge. Paul George is a more efficient shooter. So yeah, let me back to the argument. I think when they have more similar numbers, playoff seeding will come into picture because if you're, let's say they have the exact same numbers, and the Thunder are the third seed and the Rockets are what they are now, like the sixth or seventh seed. Most people would definitely lean towards the Thunder because of their record.
And of course, the bias of the record goes into it because you think like most. Here's a distinction that I like to make that I feel like a lot of people are missing. There's a difference between most valuable player and best player.
Right.
If it were the best player award, LeBron would win it every year. But it's the most valuable player award. It's the player that has the biggest effect on his team. Is the player that not necessarily is the best, but the player that if you trade them away from that team, it would have a more negative impact than if you traded the other candidates away from their team. And that's why guys like in the past, LeBron has won it, which of course when he was on the Miami Heat, they were like a 48-win team. He joins them and all of a sudden they're championship.
Well, if you're arguing it from that side, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but if you're arguing it from that side, isn't LeBron the front runner then?
I suppose he could be, yeah, but even when he was out, I mean, the Lakers weren't playing badly.
Yeah, but look what happened to the Cavs.
That's true.
And then look what happened to the Lakers when he went out.
The Cavs also Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving.
The Lakers but last year Kevin Love missed a lot of games too, and they still made it to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that LeBron deserves the MVP almost every year, but that's true. He's not getting it this year.
Yeah.
And so, as a result of that, I mean, you could definitely make that argument in PG's favor or in Harden's favor, whichever way you want to swing it, because both these guys have a huge effect on their teams, and neither of their teams would be really in the playoff picture if either of them got traded.
Yeah. All right. So Harden and Paul George both play for this. Will both be playing for the same team this All-Star weekend, which is Team LeBron. So we're going to talk about that, talk about who we think is going to win, and then we're going to wrap it up. So, for Team LeBron, we have, in my opinion, the better team out of the two.
Oh, yeah.
LeBron took Durant with his first pick, and then Kyrie, Kawhi, Harden, Davis, Thompson. All of those players, other than Harden, will be free agents or have requested a trade. So, tampering. No, I'm kidding, but. Then you got Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, which was the first All-Star Game trade in All-Star Game history, as LeBron traded Ben Simmons for Russell Westbrook. So Westbrook and Embiid could play together. And then we got LaMarcus Aldridge, Karl-Anthony Towns, Bradley Beal, who was taken with the last pick. And then we got Dwayne Wade, who was taken with the latest.
Special invitation.
And then on Giannis' side, you want to read those off?
Sure. Giannis, of course, aside from himself, he took Steph Curry with the first pick, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Kemba Walker, Chris Middleton, Nikola Jokic, Russell Westbrook, Blake Griffin, D'Angelo Russell, Nikola Vucevic, Kyle Lowry, and special guest Dirk Nowitzki. For me, Team LeBron is going to have a field day at the All-Star Game. This will not even be close, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at them, you got, of course, LeBron James has the advantage over Giannis Antetokounmpo, but that could be a fun matchup. Kevin Durant, of course, has the advantage on Steph Curry. I'm not reading these by position. I'm reading we can do them by position. You have Embiid and Davis. Of course, Davis probably won't be playing, so Joel Embiid.
Well, he will be playing. He started playing. He played.
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Falcons.
Okay.
Well, and Davis isn't a starter.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Davis doesn't start, so who would be starting at center for them?
Durant, I guess.
Durant, I guess, but Embiid could, bully Durant in the post. He's bigger.
But they don't play post.
There's no post in the All-Star game.
And the team LeBron, I think, has the better shooters. Durant's a great three-point shooter, along with
Kyrie Irving, James
Kawhi.
Harden.
So is Harden.
Klay Thompson.
And they have they have three.
Beal.
Sorry. No, they have four. No, they have five. I'm done now. Five former All-Star Game MVPs. LeBron, Durant, Kyrie, Harden, and Davis. On Giannis' side, they have Westbrook, who's been an MVP in the game
several times.
Yeah, and they have Kemba, who could maybe be the difference maker and push Team Giannis over LeBron if he goes crazy for his hometown.
Yeah, but I don't see Kemba Walker having like a crazy good All-Star game, especially because he's gonna have to go up against. Let's see, if he's starting at the point and
Curry.
you put. Well,
not Curry. Sorry, Harden.
He's gonna have
Kyrie.
Well, if you have Kyrie starting at the point, then he's probably gonna guard Kemba Walker.
Right.
And Kyrie Irving, of course, bigger than Kemba Walker. Yeah, guard. But it's really a positionless All-Star game. But
Giannis was too nice with that we picked. Because
he really was.
He said, I'm going to pick Steph Curry first because he picked me first last year. That could have been, you could argue that was the best available pick, but I think a lot of people would argue contrary to that it was probably someone Team LeBron took. And then he took Middleton with the first pick in the reserves. He had the first pick out of all of the reserves. He could have taken Davis, Thompson, Lillard, Jokic, Westbrook. Any of those guys, who I think are all better for.
Well, of course he took Middleton because he's his teammate.
Like I said, he was too nice.
Yeah, he was too nice with this. Like, let's be real. Middleton is like the worst one out of this whole lineup. You could argue, outside of maybe Kyle Lowry, Nikola Vucevic. But I mean, like Middleton isn't even one of the better players on this whole.
And then he said,
draft pool.
I told Kyle Lowry I wouldn't let him be the last pick, so I'm going to pick him. But I think we can all agree Beal is a better player than Lowry, and will play better in the All-Star.
And in just that quote in and of itself, I'm not going to let Lowry be the last pick because that would be rude. Well, someone has to be the last pick for starters. And secondly, like what? This game is. I know it's for fun, but it's still competitive. I mean,
and the fact that you said.
Go on. That was horrible. Go on. It's too late to restart. Keep going.
Oh gosh.
The fact that. Gather yourself. I'll continue while you gather yourself. So
the fact that he said that he wasn't going to make Lowry last pick really implies that he deserved to be the last pick.
Oh my! You're kind of right. I mean, like. He's like I'm gonna be nice because we all know he's gonna be the last pick, so I'm not gonna let him. Like he was too nice with this draft. Like I know it's just for fun, but it's still like you're still trying to win, so you can't just pick people out of niceness. I mean, look at this. You really mean to tell me that LeBron James is like, oh, I'll take Kevin Durant? It says, okay, I'll take Steph Curry. That's fair so far. Then he says Kyrie Irving, and then he picks like Kemba Walker. It doesn't make like you.
Well, he had to take Kemba for the last pick.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got. And then it's for the bench, really, that bothers me. Giannis had the first pick for the bench, right? Mm-hmm. Team Giannis. And then he could have picked anyone. He could have picked Anthony Davis. He could have picked...
But he chose Middleton, ultimately.
Yeah, he could have picked Davis. He could have picked, any of these great players.
Aside from that, his second pick was... I'm not sure if his second pick was Westbrook or if it was Simmons. I mean, I know it wasn't Westbrook, but I'm not sure if it was Simmons because... we didn't write down the order in which they came. So Simmons, I don't know if Simmons was the second, or Jokic was the second pick. My bad. But even Nikola Jokic is a great player, but he was drafting these guys off of raw talent instead of All-Star game talent. Like Thompson is he might not be the better player than Jokic, but in the
All-Star game, people are just launching threes and stuff. Like, you're going to want Klay Thompson.
In the All-Star game, you want Damian Lillard.
I mean, how did LeBron just pick a great player, then Giannis is like, oh, I'll take this middle-of-the-road player. LeBron is like, I'm going to take another great player. Giannis is like, oh, I'll take Chris Middleton. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
He was way too nice with his drafting.
All right, so I think we both agree on Team LeBron coming out on top in the All-Star game. So... Since this video has been so long, that means I'm not going to have to make the outro 10 minutes long. So, thank you all for watching. The new mic is messed up. That's why my voice did that weird thing.
Yep, that's the reason.
Yep. Or there's a mouse in our house. There's a mouse that lives in the house.
He's in the wall somewhere.
Right. All right. So thank you all for watching. Most of you probably won't even watch to that moment. So
Hopefully.
no big deal.
Hopefully.
So thank you all for watching. Like we said, we want to get the views back up, get them back up to 100. I'm not sure if I said that at the beginning of this video.
You did.
Because the camera stopped recording.
Yeah, because we had to redo this so many times because we couldn't get the camera to work.
Yeah. Alright, so if I did say that, then I'm going to reiterate it. And if I didn't, then I've just said it for the first time. So thank you for watching. Make sure to keep watching and just check out for the next Debate Mates video, hopefully on this Wednesday. Ciao.